Hi, this is Phaedra Jones from With Love Hannah Dolls, and this is the first video of a free pattern I have for you, the Bitty Bit Cuddle Baby, and I will walk you through the entire making process. I tried to make this tutorial with a newbie sewist in mind, so if you're pretty crafty you may have the supplies you need already on hand, but if this is your first sewing project, you'll probably need to go to the fabric store and buy a few inexpensive supplies. So in this first video, let's talk about the supplies you need. Fabric. For the baby body and the hat, you'll need a fabric that's washable with a little stretch. Using upcycled fabric here is a perfect choice, such as outgrown clothes or a favorite shirt that has a hole in it or whatever, sweater that's gone through the washer. Silk is also a really great option here. Most people don't think about that, but resale shops you can find them really cheap. Even if it says dry clean only, just throw it in the washer on cold, gentle cycle, and then it'll be good to go. Works really great. The blue bunny that you saw in the opening picture was made with the blue sweater that you see. It's the second fabric in that picture, and it's a wool and silk sweater. Worked great for this project, so you can use pretty much anything as long as it's soft and it's washable. For the baby's head, you'll need some flesh colored knit fabric. I use a cotton knit that's made for doll making, but my first dolls were made from old t-shirts that I dyed in a tea bath, and I'll show you one of those later on. Tea dyeing works great here. Makes a really great skin tone. Just use what you have on hand. I'm probably going to say it too much through this whole tutorial, but I really want you to just look around your house and find stuff that you can upcycle. Maybe even an old brown or tan t-shirt that you have hanging around might be the right, a nice skin tone. Or you could even go completely non-human, like imaginary or animal-like, so think, pink or purple or dark black or white bunny or whatever. That would be really adorable too. You also need something to transfer the pattern to the fabric. I use an air erasable pen that works perfectly, but you can also use a ballpoint pen to carefully mark those sew lines. I've done it in the past. Just make sure that if you do that you're going to sew inside that pin mark. So when you turn the body right side out, there won't be a pin mark accidentally showing on the outside. Some fabrics you can even use a pencil. Again, use what you have. Also, you'll need some straight pins. You'll need a needle with thread that matches your body fabric. I like to use ball tip needles with my knit fabrics, but if all you have is sharp needles, then use those. A sewing machine is optional. You can definitely hand sew this doll from start to finish. It's really small, so it's great to tote around, and it's easy to just start and stop for just a few minutes of time. Embroidery floss. You'll need that too for the eyes and the mouth, so you need two colors, and then add a third color to that if you want to embroider some hair. You could also use sewing thread here instead if you already have that on hand. You'll just want to double or triple the thread up to make sure it's a little thicker. Okay, and then for the ears, I used pink wool felt to line the little white bunny's ears. That's totally optional too. On the little blue bunny, if you'll notice, I didn't line his ears at all. So if you want to line it, you can use felt or any other type of washable fabric, and you can either sew it in place or you can glue it. Just make sure if you glue it, you use a fabric glue that's washable. Dressmaker's measuring tape is helpful for the head making part of this project, but you could definitely eyeball the size if you don't have one. And of course, last but not least, you'll need the Bitty Baby pattern printed and cut out. Now let's talk about stuffing options for your Bitty Bit Cuddle Baby's body. On the left you'll see wool. It's a carded bat, and that's what I use in my doll making, so you'll see that in this tutorial, but it isn't the only option. You could use quilt batting from the fabric store or other types of stuffing like polyfill or bamboo or corn fiber, or if you can get your hands on a cotton stuffing, that would work great too. Just don't use cotton balls or cotton pads designed for cosmetic use. That cotton balls won't work for that. You could also take an unloved stuffed animal and wash it and take the stuffing out and upcycle that. You could also go to the dollar store and buy a pillow that's full of polyfill for $1. That would work as well. Next to the wool fiber, you'll see some little yarn bits and bobs. That works great for stuffing as well. I collect that from all my knitting and spinning projects. I just don't throw any of that away. And you can cut that up and use that as stuffing for the body. It works great. great. You could also use bits of felted wool fabrics, or even t-shirts. You could cut up the t-shirts and make a stuffing out of that. It just needs to be something that's washable. If you want to weight your baby, some people like to add some weight, and that's great. I'll show you how to do that. You can use plastic pellets like what you see in a Beanie Baby. You can buy that at the store. You could also just upcycle an unloved Beanie Baby if you wanted to. You could also use something natural like a stone, a smooth stone, or some other natural heavy, something that has weight, as long as it's not a food item. So I wouldn't recommend any type of food item. Some people like to use flax or different things like that, and no food because it just attracts bugs, and then it's not washable either. The other thing you need is something to move that stuffing around with, so a chopstick works really great, or a small dowel stick. Now in this final section, let's talk about what you need to make your Cuddle Baby's head. First, you'll need some sort of stuffing. I use wool, and so that works great. You could also use polyfill if that's what you have on hand. I'm going to show you a couple options how to make these little wee heads. So one option is to use yarn as a base, and so that's wool yarn you see in the picture. So that's one option. You could also use a felt ball. That's a wool felt ball, and a lot of craft stores have those. You may already have those on hand. That's another option. So those are things, if you already have those on hand, you can definitely use that to make the head. You need something to put all this stuffing into in order to shape it, and what I use is a tubular cotton gauze that's designed for finger bandages. That's there on the right of your screen. You can find these in small packages at some drugstores, so if you wanted to try to buy it, you might look there. Stuff around the house that you could use, and I have used these myself, are a sock. You can use a sock, a baby sock, a child sock, whatever. Or you could make your own tubing out of a cotton knit fabric. That's what you see there in the picture in the middle. It's just a piece of cotton knit folded over in half and a seam down one side to make a tube, and it works great. In fact, that's one of my favorite things to use on these little wee heads. You'll also need some sort of string. I use a crochet thread, and I like the finer one for these little heads, but you can use a thicker crochet thread if you want to, or you can use a string, whatever you have on hand. You just need something to tie off on the head. Also, I didn't picture it here, but a crochet hook would be really helpful, but it's definitely not necessary. So now gather up all your supplies and join me in the next video where we will begin your Bitty Bit Cuddle Baby.